You're in for a treat because this is the best panel of the day, without any doubt in my mind whatsoever. And I'll say that with full conviction, because today we're going to talk about the power of artist collectives on the blockchain with Cyber Baat DAO. Now, before we get into the topic, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Anthony McGuire. I'm head of marketing for New Street. We're a startup that's building a media brand and data analytics tools for collectibles like NFTs, sneakers, trading cards, and a lot of what we do is try to highlight work done by NFT artists in the space. Whether they're traditional artists trying to transition into digital art, NFTs, or whether they're more digitally native. But today, it's not about me, it's about Cyber Baat. So I'd like everybody on the panel to introduce themselves with as much of their life story as they would like. Starting from left to right, Abdoulaye Barry, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Afterwards, we'll have Akosua, Viktoria, Adu-Sanyah, and then afterwards, we'll have Kenza Zouari. So Abdoulaye, go, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Abdoulaye Barry. I'm a motion designer based in France, in Paris. And my background is a little bit all over the place. So my parents are from Guinea, so we are Fulani. And I was born in New York because my mom, she used to work at the embassy. So we would have like some kind of, it was on purpose that I was born in New York. Before that, they were living in Ivory Coast, but there was a civil war back in 2002. So we had to leave the country to come in France. And so here I am. I'm fully French now. I have the passport and everything. So yeah, I'm 27 years old, and I do NFTs for like a year and a half now. Yeah.
Hi. My name is Akosua, Viktoria, Adu-Sanyah, as you can hear. I am German. I go by Ava Silvery online. And I am a visual artist and photographer based in Zurich, Switzerland. My mom is German, and my dad was from Ghana. I was born in Germany, and I grew up in a rather rural and not very heterogenic part of Germany in the western part of the country called Saarland. And I studied fine arts and photography and graduated in 2015. I'm 32 now. I've been in the NFT space for over a year, approximately. Currently working on a project, Behold the Ocean, that maybe some of you have heard about. And am part of Cyber Baat since the very beginning, part of the operations club and also the artist group.
Hi everyone, my name is Kenza. I was born and raised in Tunis, Tunisia, North Africa, but I'm half French. I'm a curator. I also do a lot of other things, but for Cyber Baat, which I joined in November 2021, I mostly curate, and I'm also part of the operations team, just like Akosua. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to this panel because I guess for all of us, Cyber Baat is pretty much our baby, and it's something that I'm very proud of. And so thank you again, for coming today.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Kenza, maybe we could start off. I'd love to hear from your perspective. Could you explain to people in the audience what is Cyber Baat, how does it work, the mission behind it, and then maybe why it's important to you personally from your own personal experience. Then we can move on to everybody else about why Cyber Baat matters to them.
Yes, so Cyber Baat was founded by Linda Dunya, who's an artist and curator, back, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Akosua, but it was in the summer of 2021. She curated a collection on Foundation with amazing artists, I think 10 or 15 artists. And it was paired with a physical exhibition in Dakar, Senegal. And right after that, she started to think about, okay, that was amazing, but let's try and turn it into a DAO to make it maybe even more powerful. So in November of 2021, that's when I connected again with her, and she pitched me the idea, and I'm like, yes, let's do it. And she also talked to a lot of other members in the DAO. And that's kind of how Cyber Baat was created. We have the Ops Club, which is kind of the core team working on trying to find opportunities, doing all the technical back end. And we have the Artist Club and the Collectors Club. So we first launched a fundraiser with all of the artists part of the DAO. There are 21 artists. I'm literally the only one who's not an artist in the DAO. That was kind of to help fund our first activities. That's kind of how we were able to go to Art Dubai, for example. We had a booth, and we were able to showcase the art of all of the artists. And that's also a bit how we also arrived here at NFC. So I think literally I talked a little bit about it, but like to me, Cyber Baat is really important because it is a DAO that really highlights African artists or artists of African descent. So we're kind of everywhere around the world, and we're trying to try and create opportunities for our respective communities, and that's what interested me the most, because in Tunis, Tunisia, the art scene is so small, the opportunities for artists are very small as well. Trying to get to international audience is super hard. So Cyber Baat to me is bringing opportunities, onboarding people, onboarding artists, onboarding creators to try and create things, you know, with like really an amazing support on the side with all of the artists and all of the members of the DAO. So yeah, to me that's what is, you know, making me happy and proud about Cyber Baat.
Yeah. Akosua, I'd love to hear like why is Cyber Baat important to you based on your own sort of personal experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think all of us have very different answers. We have all very different experiences, different backgrounds, different environments, with different challenges presented to us as creative practitioners in the cultural field. And as I said, I am German, or German Ghanaian. I have a German passport, and I grew up in Germany in a very rural part where I didn't really find, or never even considered, having a community based on culture. That is a thought extremely foreign to me, because if you're navigating in an environment that is just has a default demographic, then you don't really necessarily reflect on an alternative for that, because there is no cultural backup for you, especially for people of biracial culture, like myself. And so I am a professional visual artist, meaning I'm living from my work, from my personal work, from exhibitions, from grants and prizes, and these kinds of opportunities. Have been building my career for 10 years in Europe, mostly in Germany, but also France, Luxembourg, and Switzerland, where I live in now, and internationally. And it hasn't been until entering the NFT space a little bit over 1 year ago that I met the first African artists. The first one who I met was Ahmed Partey, who is a Ghanaian artist. He is, I believe, he was the first African artist on Super Rare. He is creating these traditional masks and transfers them into an AR space. It's incredibly powerful. It's a new medium as well. And he was the first African artist I really ever connected with through the NFT space. And I realized suddenly I was confronted with something that I had been missing. Because I'm sure there are some visual artists among you who are also confronted with similar challenges, you know, depending on what we look like, what gender we belong to, what culture we are supposed to identify with. We are expected to produce a certain kind of work. We can speak of tokenization, or we can speak about something else, but whatever you do is considered a political act, a political statement in some way. And you cannot flee from that. That's your work. And so you have to decide whether you confront it aggressively or not. And it really hasn't been until meeting the first African artist through Web3 that I felt I had some sense of backup, if that makes sense, and ironically felt much more grounded in my traditional trajectory. And actually, I've met Kenza and Abdoulaye for the very first time in real life 2 days ago. And we have been in the same DAO and community since August. Actually, you're the first NFT people I've ever met. So there's that. So for me, it is a very personal, but also as a European and German artist, it is one of the most important opportunities right now to course correct and take part in writing whatever decolonial history might mean in the context of art.
Abdoulaye, I'd love to hear your own personal connection to Cyber Baat.
Yeah, actually, so I knew about Linda a year ago. It was during summer, and we connected through Twitter because at the time, Linda, she's based in Dakar, Senegal, and I have quite a lot of family there in Dakar, Senegal. And so it was the first time I was seeing someone who's from Senegal doing arts like she was doing. She was doing collage, she was doing AI arts, and it was the first time. So we connected through that and on DM, and she proposed me right away to showcase my work at an exhibition in Dakar. And originally, I come from listening to rap music and hip hop, and there is a thing in the US. It's a brand called FUBU, For Us By Us, and I strongly believe in that. Not just for us, by us, like in the cultural way or skin tone way, but more like how do you connect with people through other things that's skin color or religion or things like that. So for me, I connect with people who are genuine and people who are who share the same ideas. So it doesn't matter who you are, but with Linda, we connected on another level. It was just DM. I never talked to her. I don't know her voice. I mean, I know she speaks French, but I don't know much of her. So when she proposed me to be a part of a DAO, Cyber Baat, I immediately said yes, because I know for a fact that in this space there is a lot of sharks, there's a lot of people, scammers, there's a lot of people who would do bad things for the sake of money. And if you are not prepared mentally and with your group, you will fail right away. So it was for me a sense of protecting myself, protecting my art, and make sure that I'm always with the right person. So that's why I do that.
I've got so many questions and topics we could go down, so let's just dive in. But I'm thinking one thing that comes to mind here, it's kind of beautiful that you all met online first, and then now in real life, and we're all friends here now. And the topic of representation and getting more underrepresented groups represented in arts and creativity has been around for it's not like it's a 2022 problem only, right? This was something that has existed pretty much forever. But what we have today, I mean, everybody here is gathered at this conference because they believe in the power of, presumably, NFTs, Web3, things like that. And Cyber Baat seems to be a DAO that's been created as a solution, at least partially, to problems of representation in the art space. Now, if you think about that same problem that existed 20, 30 years ago, could Cyber Baat have been founded in 2000? Maybe not, maybe yes. But what about today makes Cyber Baat the right possible time to be a DAO? And what about DAO specifically, do you think, enable someone like people on the stage to connect in a way that they couldn't connect even 10 years ago? Open to anyone here, of course. Yeah.
Everyone's looking at me.
Oh.
We expect you to solve the question.
I mean, I think that you mentioned something that is very true, which is this question of representation, and has been going on for some time. But again, as far as I'm concerned, I think that what we're doing with Cyber Baat is trying, first of all, to show that our cultures are very different, even though, well, we all are from African descent, but people tend to forget that Africa is not a country.
I mean, you're the only African person on stage, to be exact.
Also, that's very true. So I was born and raised in Tunis. I lived there my whole life, but Akosua hasn't, and Abdoulaye hasn't either. They're not, that they have African roots, but that's very true. But actually, the fundraiser for Cyber Baat, the theme of it was Africa is not a country. And so every artist created an artwork trying to represent that in a way. And Abdoulaye, actually, you did a pretty nice artwork, which is a search bar.
Okay.
Like someone typing Africa and then the different answers, and then someone clicks on Africa is not a country, and fireworks appear because that's the right answer. So what we're trying to do is really show that there is a diversity, that we're not the same, we don't all speak the same language, we're not all black. I am very, very white. And so there are many differences, and so you cannot put us all in the same basket. And also, they are the other way around. In North Africa, for example, a lot of people tend to think that they're not from Africa. That's just, I don't know, magically something else, which is also not true. In the end, so I think what is the most important thing to me, again, with Cyber Baat is to show that and to remind people that what is exactly, that kind of really highlight those differences and also similarities, of course, because of the richness of our different cultures, the way that we all have been influenced by many many cultures in general. I mean, Tunis, for example, is really very, very diverse in terms of cultures. A lot of, we're influenced by Italians, we're influenced by French, of course, we were colonized by them. So there's a mix of cultures, and you touch on something also very important that I would love to actually for you to develop a little bit more, but when you're biracial, or if you have multiple nationalities, or you have different cultures, like for example, I'm half French, half Tunisian, I don't think I belong in either of those cultures, and that's something that I've struggled with, identity-wise, I think. And that's something that I would love to talk about as well, because I think a lot of people in the DAO are having the same, the same issues where within us, there's multiple personalities.
Yes, I remember even one of our members in the artist club who is also I'm not going to name her name, but she's awesome, and she's very, very active in community building in her own DAOs and communities. And I remember her commenting, "Oh, I didn't even consider that you would consider me to be in this show because I am African American. So I don't really have this thing." And I struggle so much. I hate the term representation in the context of culture. I'm not here to do PR, I'm sorry. I really struggle with this because I think I'm German again, but I think in the US Constitution there is an act called the Freedom of Association. It's usually used in a certain kind of way. But the way I interpret it is, as long as nobody specifically asks me for my permission to represent them, I'm never going to say I'm representing someone other than myself. Not a culture, not a person. And I think the idea of representation in cultural context, and whatever kind of context, is something that has to be individually negotiated and agreed on. Otherwise, we are completely contradicting the idea of emancipation and liberation, whatever else is important for us, for us people who have historically been, and this is, I think, something that we all have in common, we have historically been confronted with more challenges because of what we look like on the outside. And so, that's something I always want to comment on. I'm not representing, because I have to ask for permission to represent someone. And maybe commenting a little bit on your question of timing, where we are right now in 2022. I think it's let's take a very recent example why it is so urgent to have a community like this, a collective like this, that is very, very not monolithic. On the 24th of February 2022, a country in Europe declared war against another country in Europe. And so, observing the crypto space, being active in the crypto space, within a couple of days, several initiatives were incredibly successful to raise money for humanitarian aid. There was one initiative that Linda Dunia, the founder of Cyber Baat, was incredibly involved in. I'm not speaking on behalf of her right now. I'm only sharing this because I think it's incredibly important. And she took part in an initiative called Africans in Ukraine, because as many of you probably know, Black people in Ukraine were facing several issues aligned with segregation and racism on the border, and they could not access other countries as easily and leave the place. And so there was this grassroots initiative because they were connected to people on the ground in the country who knew how to distribute ETH, convert ETH, distribute the money to the people so they could pay the $1,000 taxi that usually would cost you 10 if you were white. And so there was this initiative, Africans in Ukraine, and compared to certain DAOs that were able to raise a couple $1 million with influencer backup in 2 days, I mean, $60,000 is nice, but it's different. And I do believe that this very, very recent example shows why something like Cyber Baat is incredibly, incredibly important. One last example because I'm fired up because it's really so important is NFT NYC is coming up in June. I'm going to be speaking there about Behold the Ocean and probably on Looking, which is an NFT photography Twitter space in collaboration with Matthew Morocco and Laurent Chevalier and Assembly Curated. I'm naming their names because together we do define a little bit what diversity might look like. And we have it easy. Like Matthew and Laurent have US American passports. I have a German one. I can go to NFT NYC, which is supposed to be one of the biggest and most important NFT events in the world. Two of the most important artists in the crypto space from Nigeria cannot go and had to cancel their participation because of their passports. They don't get visas. And this is why initiatives like ours and projects like ours that are supposed to look out into the future are important. We are just one very little part of a bigger puzzle, but we need to change something from the ground up, even though we're bootstrapping.
Just very briefly, I want to, because you said something that feels very familiar. If I didn't have a French passport, I wouldn't be able to travel as much as I do. And I was talking to a Tunisian artist last time who was very, very stressed because he really, really wanted to do this school, or this actually was a residency in Brussels, and he was telling me, Kenza, I don't know if I'll get a visa because they're asking for so many things. They're asking you for an income. If you're an artist in Tunis, you don't really have a stable income, so it's very complicated. And so, yeah, so these are kind of the issues that I hope with, and we're already started, but I hope that we'll keep on doing with Cyber Baat, trying to facilitate that for artists. But we already, bumped into issues.
Yeah.
We had another, actually, artist who was supposed to come today, Dada Boapello, but she did get her visa, but for May. And we were supposed to come now, so, and she needed an invitation, and the NFC team was amazing because they provided this on time, but, they just make it extra harder for
Right.
And even in the Web3 world, you think about being decentralized and people having access to things. I remember when a lot of my friends were talking about all the Iranian artists who were taken off OpenSea and restricted from using their MetaMask just by being Iranian. It's clearly something that just doesn't necessarily go away because we're in Web3 in this utopian world. Considering the importance of this topic and many others, like I was about to ask a question about how we prioritize things, but actually, Abdullah, would you like to first comment on anything that's been said so far? Otherwise, I got a question, but I want to give you a chance to speak if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the good things that Cyber Baat can do and does right now is to give it's a chance of opportunity for people to work and to make mistakes and then take the rewards or the fail of the actions. So it's always action-based things. So we cannot give access to all the African artists in the world because just because you're African, it has to have like some kind of a level. But it can give to people a good opportunity. Like we can, for example, buy them like a computer because in some countries it's very hard to get a computer to work or a graphic tablet to work with, and we let them do the work, and then if they succeed, they take the rewards, and that's on them. But if they fail, we hurt them in a way, but that's on them too. Responsibility and sovereignty. That's something that's really important in Web3.
Yeah. I'm just thinking out loud here the fact that we're at an NFT conference, and a lot of the topics that were discussed on stage are about here's the latest cool PFP pick with 10,000 cats or lions or something like that, which are totally valid, cool projects. I own some NFTs as well. But then we have other things that Akosua brought up, like how we can actually fund things like Ukraine DAO, how we can actually fund African artists, how we can do things that might be a bit more impact-driven or just generally more important perhaps than owning a bunch of lazy lions or whatever, no offense to lazy lions. In the conversations that you have with people in the NFT space, because clearly you're involved in maybe those projects as well, how do you think topics that are slightly maybe more serious and less fun than lazy lions can be brought to attention, apart from panels like this, of course? Like, is this something that you're seeing people care about? Because to me, Web3 isn't just about all the awesome NFTs, which is a cool part of it, but the things that you mentioned, right? And how do we get people to realize that more, if you have an answer? It's not an easy question, but just curious to get your thoughts on that. Anyone on stage, of course.
Again, to me it's really like education. So one big pillar in Cyber Baat. So we have two actually. We have education and we have art. So I think you need to educate and do as much, as like trying to talk to people as much as you can and trying to explain why it is dear to you, right? What actually. I think it's useless to tell people the power of NFTs or the power of the crypto world because they can't see it every day.
Yeah.
but it is important to try and tell them about what's happening first beyond Europe. There's not just Europe and the US, like, there's other countries. And then again, like, just explaining what is happening. I'm sorry, it's really just education for me, like really one of the pillars, because if we're not doing it, then maybe no one will, but I know other initiatives are doing a great job in education. And so I really think that we should also collaborate with that. The whole point of Web3 is that you're able to connect with people with the same visions as you, and you should work together and not separately. So if we manage to connect all of the organizations working toward the same goal, the same objective, then that's where magic happens.
Yeah.
When we actually decide to work together and not separately. So in a way, centralizing, not decentralizing, but using a decentralized system.
But yes, I think education is incredibly important, which also requires ourselves to be as educated as we can. But as an artist in the first place, I really would answer with just doing the work. I do think imposter syndrome is a real thing, and if you know that I think yesterday in the Behold the Ocean talk, I mentioned, I think briefly, the need for readjusting expectations when you are in Web3 and NFTs all the time, because we are surrounded by a very curated, if not even censored, output of success, when in reality, it's hard to lift a project off the ground. It is very difficult, and it requires a lot of legwork if you aren't someone who has already made it, who also did the work. But I really think it does require courage if you know that, starting a project and knowing that you won't get the same feedback and level of resonance for a variety of reasons, maybe because people don't expect a brown woman to work on a super scientific technical project. Maybe they expect me to draw brown women instead to, represent something. It is very difficult to release something knowing that there might be crickets, at first or in the long run. So, but I do think all the people who see us putting this kind of work out there and being maybe the first in leading the way in this new technology that is not only defined by a market of financial value, but we cannot forget about the permanence of whatever we put on the blockchain and the power of actually metadata and the dynamic technology that it is, and also the timestamps that Mario Klingemann just mentioned today. So I think doing the work first, knowing that you will have it harder, much harder than everyone who, comes behind you, is the #1 priority for us.
Any thoughts there, Abdoulaye? Or no pressure from that. Or
I mean,
Akosua is the best.
I think I forgot the question.
Oh, just any other follow-on thoughts there? If not, I can move on to another topic.
Oh, you can go.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, I think one of the things that we've been discussing as well, maybe I'd love to dive into deeper, is specifically the power of NFTs. I think everybody here is an artist or has been involved in the art world. I'd love to hear from each person, if you have a story, how have NFTs personally impacted, let's say, your ability to be an artist, to reach a different audience, maybe just in different ways, to connect with other types of people. Like, what has been the power that NFT has given you from an African art perspective or non-African art perspective? And also maybe interesting to hear your personal story behind NFTs, but also maybe a friend or someone, like a story that inspired you, like, oh, I heard about this project that was so inspiring to me because of whatever reason with regards to NFTs and art.
I can start. For me, I remember the first time I heard about NFTs was IG stories. So before NFT, I'm a motion designer, so it was more like 2D animation, and I was into the Dribble Instagram community, and I first saw the IG story of Beeple doing his drop on Nifty Getaway, his $1,000 open edition, and after that he made a School of Motion podcast, and I remember I was listening to the podcast, and because I know Beeple for quite a long time, I knew that he was struggling with freelancing. Obviously, he was making money, but it wasn't just about the money. It was stressful for him to work with agencies or studios because they were asking him so many things, from DJ concert, like VJing, he done something with Louis Vuitton and things like that. So he always talk about like how it's hard for people, freelancers, to work with studios. And he said something that struck me right away. He said it was the first time he was enjoying doing arts just for the sake of doing art, because he was doing the everydays, but his everydays, it was more like a challenge and something that he wanted to, be in the history books of, of the world, and doing everydays for like quite a long time, and training. But he was using his training for like 13 plus years and put it into the NFT, and now he's, I would say, like, obviously he was happy before, but he's happier, I would say, because he can no longer count on freelance gig to make his money. And for me, before NFTs, I was doing motion design, and I was quite struggling finding jobs here and there because I don't have like the skill sets. That's most of the reason. But at NFT, just 1 year in, I'm already able to. I traveled and I met people, and never happened to me when I was doing motion design. Motion design, I love motion design, but I was really like alone in my room doing the stuff. But with the NFT, it's the first time I'm traveling like for work. Like I said to my parents, I'm traveling for work, and say, "What the fuck are you doing there?" It's just NFT. So. So it's just 1 year in. Everything passed so fast, and you can sense like, okay, you're doing something that's it's very early, and it might move in the right direction depending on the human beings.
What was the question again?
Oh, just like any personal story or a story about how NFTs have affected your ability to be an artist, or people you know's ability to be an artist. And
there is so much in the middle between these extremes of the brightest success stories, whatever that might mean, and the ones who like give up or don't persevere enough. So there is a spectrum. And it's very difficult to answer because there's so much going on, and I'm basically not doing anything. I'm actually doing everything else I did before too, but on top of this NFTs and like Discord and Twitter and these things. But I think, we talked about Linda already, Linda Dunya, who is a thought leader in the space, who is one of the most brilliant minds I have ever met in my entire life, completely detached from where she's based and where she comes from. This is like, I cannot even summarize why that is, but I can only say that I am incredibly honored to just know her as a woman and as an artist. But maybe one story is Owo. Owo had one of the most successful PFP projects, Afrodroids. He's a Nigerian artist. He puts out 3D art every single day. And he was able to raise $500,000 in ETH back then, almost 1 year ago, I think last summer, that he gave to a charity called Dreamcatchers, I think, in Nigeria. And they are taking care of orphaned girls in Nigeria, in the country. And so that's what he did. And I think a couple of days ago or 2 weeks ago, he shared pictures of, like the first pictures of a building they just built in a couple of months, I think, for these girls and for art education in the country of Nigeria. And so to me, that's impactful.
I'm not an artist.
You got some stories, I'm sure. People inspire you, maybe.
You don't care.
Yeah.
No. No, I think there's always something that is very, like, you always stumble upon things that makes you think. I want to give a shout out to Emerge East, who's like an online gallery, and they're doing an amazing job highlighting artists from the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. And I think that's the first actually initiative that I discovered in the space that was really trying to focus, to drive focus on that specific, diverse whole region, and might be very inspiring too because it's mostly women running Emerge. So there's 2 co-founders, one of which is just right here. Woo. But yeah, I think that's what the kind of initiatives I'm looking for, the type of people I want to connect with and I want to think with. So to me, if you're doing something that highlights the community, then I'm 100% with you. I think there's also the Emir Mondoir, one of the biggest collectors in the space. He's also done amazing things for a lot of minority artists, and not just by collecting them, but creating opportunities for them. So if you have the power to make things happen for people that you know are struggling, that's when I'm going to look at you with a lot of admiration. And I think, I mean, Akosua said it, but like that's also what Linda's doing.
Yeah.
And that's also why I'm here with Cyber Baat.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been in Cyber Baat if I didn't connect on that same level.
And maybe if I can just add on to that, like now that we're like with the shout outs and like highlighting individual people as well, I often think sometimes there is still a perception of, oh, if I'm not part of, if I cannot identify with the culture, then I'm not supposed to touch it, or like there is like hesitation, and you know, everybody wants to be politically correct, apart from those who don't want to be, but they don't want to be with us, so like it's like a lost point. But I think there is a notion of the importance of allyship and what that looks like, and so I just wanted to mention Mikhail Opiumham from our Zora, who was like one of the most crucial people involved in the Africans in Ukraine initiative, and who was like, I mean, Zora is one of the most important development teams in Web3 right now, and he is in Berlin. And he's one of the most, I think, impactful and most genuine allies we could have. Has been supporting us individually, one-on-one, and also in group and micro initiatives, without him having the need to use this as another, a public token of this is my diversity shelf. Yeah. So these people are really, really crucial, and we're very grateful to have people like themselves in the background and foreground.
Yeah. I think it's really beautiful that you've all kind of like found each other through Cyber Baat, and as the DAO grows, you'll be more people added to this, and also your personal experiences shape what matters most to you about Cyber Baat. Now, maybe on that topic, I'd love to hear. I mean, one of the beautiful things about a DAO is that it's not just one person's opinion, but a sort of confluence of opinions here. Maybe I'd love to hear from each of you. What would you like Cyber Baat to be like 5 years from now? Like, what do you think are the biggest priorities? Should it be becoming like bigger in terms of number of people, like different areas of focus? Should it be like more activities, like charitable activities? Totally up to you, but I'd love to just hear if you could input into the future of Cyber Baat, what would be important to you in the next few years?
I can start. For me, okay, so this is very personal, but I would love Cyber Baat to be like a lobby, because we all know like how things works in the world, and like for example, just like football in Africa, it's all about lobby and politics, So like countries, they want to promote something, they will go to like FIFA and ask for for money, and then they will do the things that they want to do. So for us, we have to become, we may become a power source that will lead people in the right direction that we want to lead, So making sure that the right people get the fund that they can then use to create what they want, and make sure that we are a lobby that powerful that we can, change things in the political realm, in the local countries, and make sure that we are all moving in the right direction that we, think that.
I really hope that we will remain facilitators and enablers, and I hope. We could talk about all the operational stuff and like launching a token and all these things, but I do hope, just to summarize the bigger vision for me personally. Again, we're not like a monolithic collective. Also probably autobiographically and personally, I hope that Cyber Baat will be a thing that people can think of if they lack confidence and self-understanding as an artist, meaning, of course I can do this. There is Cyber Baat, so I can do this. I don't have to conform with a certain artistic narrative maybe also for people of the African diaspora who are, printed with a Western value canon of the traditional arts. And I also hope, maybe practically, that we do become a force in the entire movement of decolonizing the arts and public space very actively through blockchain technology in order to really participate in rewriting history.
100%. I was going to say that we need to write our own, have our own narrative. You said it very beautifully. I'm out of words, but that's exactly it. To me, Cyber Baat can act as a model, and to inspire people to do the same thing and join forces, and also help people on board and understand, trying to guide them into the difficulties or the obstacles that they may encounter in the space or outside the space as well, and trying to, create a new. Yes, really own our history and own our news story and write something different. And, what I also hope is to maybe stop attending those events, but create them in our respective countries or in the countries that makes the most sense for us to organize something, where we can also be even more niche, talking about things that are very maybe deeper conversation, a bit more complex, trying to confront ideas. And so I think with everything that we've done up to now is to really try and prepare those kind of conversations that I'm really happy to also be having today. Because we just met 2 days ago, today, and I love how we were able to have a 15 minutes talk before this today to just run some ideas to say, okay, what are we going to talk about? Because we only have a title and some questions, but maybe you want to talk about something a bit differently, or maybe there are some things that we really want to talk about. One of the things I said is I hate the title of this panel. I don't think it reflects exactly what we wanted to say today, but and I'm happy we were able to kind of talk about other things and not just that. And we only have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if there are
I was going to say,
Yeah, I would love to add something. What would DAO, one thing that I want the DAO to be doing in the future is to go to London, to go to Paris, to go to Milan and take back the thing that people stole from us, the art in the museums. I don't think it's something that can be done now, but in the future, I really hope that we have political power and funds to take back the thing that we got stolen. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I think this has been the best panel of the day so far, all because of the 3 people here, not me at all. But we only have 2 minutes left, and I happily can keep talking or asking questions, but I'd love to open up to the audience. Does anybody here have any questions they'd like to ask? I see someone in the back right there. Feel free, please. Get a microphone to him, or? Okay, that's fine.
Hi. Everyone here is probably aware of how fast the Web3 narrative is growing, but sorry, I'm mixing up my question with another one from the previous panel. Yes. First, because I'm asking my question with another question that I had to the previous panel. So if anyone wants to go ahead first.
Okay. Anybody else while he's figuring out? Any questions? Anyone? If not, we have a minute. Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
So I have something that's kind of a million-dollar question. That is, how do you bring people to the space? Because the general opinion of public opinion right now is everyone hates NFTs, everyone hates crypto, except people who are in it, or at least are curious about it. So how do you get this out there? Because we need it to be out there in every realm, like political, economical, social. How do we do it?
Big question. Anyone, feel free. Yeah.
Yes, I think you have to meet the people where they are. And that's, for me, it has been incredibly easy. It has been super easy. I have never been confronted with resentment or a super stubborn idea. It is very easy because if you're naturally involved in projects and collectives that do make sense to you for a greater cause, that's a stupid vocabulary, but take a better word, then it's super easy because we're talking about a technology. Like, we are at the place right now, back then when photographers were wearing the t-shirts like, I hate digital photography, or I hate the internet. Like, who cares? This is technology. I don't care if people hate NFTs and crypto. Let's meet them where they are and not try to convince them that Ethereum is okay. Let's just meet them where they are and where their interests are. I don't think it has to be complicated. And I'm not interested in convincing someone. I'm interested in understanding where we might align, because this goes completely beyond technology.
Yeah, it does.
And then I think, once the values are aligned, if they are not aligned, the core values, then leave me, I have better things to do, honestly.
But that's the thing
if the core values are aligned, I mean, talking really about liberation, about emancipation in the context of culture and artistic practice, I think it should be very easy to communicate that everything we are here for is technology, meaning a vehicle to get to a different place. It is not about NFTs and the stuff. It's about what they do. So we need to do a better job at finding the wording that meets the people. It's not about them coming to us, and do enough research. That's my opinion.
I totally agree with you, but that sounds a bit like you can use that kind of edit, but it sounds like you are yourself in an echo chamber or in a bubble yourself that's surrounded by people that agree with you. So
No.
the problem is still the same. How do we get to the other people that are outside?
Yeah, no, believe me, I'm not.
So they're doing this to us right now. But I'm just going to very quickly answer you, because I am surrounded by people who are very skeptical about NFTs. What I did is to just give them what I think, my personal opinion. But you know what they say in the space, do your own research. But what I said, especially in Tunis, it's like, for me, NFTs can bring a solution to struggling artists in a way that they can show their art to an international audience easily using technology. So if they have a PC, if they have a phone, and they have internet, and you need those three things, and not everyone has them, then there's things that you can, these are tools that you can use to actually show your art. So again, with Cyber Baat, that's something that we want to do. That's education and also our personal opinions. We're not here to convince, we're here to suggest a solution. And then if you say, okay, that resonates with me, let's do it, then it's fine and we can help you go through the process. If you're against it, it's fine. We're not a sect or something, right?
Yeah. I think I
just want to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one phrase. There's a French rapper who says, "Je laisse la nature faire pour les sélections." So I let God, nature do for the selection. So I don't preach anything. If you don't like it, it's fine.
Exactly.
It's a great way to end. Thank you everybody for being here. Thanks to the panelists. Thanks for taking the time.